Alrighty, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Serving Nerve, where we talk about whatever we want, and today we're going to be going through Therians. Yes, that's right. So, Therians have been kind of circulating online for a while now, and in my opinion, they've kind of mixed themselves into this combative scene between furries, Therians, online animals, and, identifying as animals. And recently, I keep on seeing Therian content on my feed, so I figured we should check it out. A little explanation on what a furry is. It's somebody who has, an interest in anthropomorphic or cartoon animals and uses that almost as a persona or a fursona. And there's not as much, from what I've seen, as an association with actually identifying as an animal. Therians actually identify spiritually or physically or mentally as an animal. So that's kind of the difference between furries and Therians, I guess. Saying that, I have seen them all mix themselves into kind of a similar scene and or butt heads because they identify as different things or they have different perspectives on these things. Over the years, I have seen furries identify more with also kind of like a weird deviant art sexual interest in animals more so than a Therian. But the other issue I have is a lot of Therians and furries are actually just kids not knowing what they're doing. So it's kind of a weird mix of, in my opinion, creeps online and then also people with, sorts of fantasy views of animals and identifying as animals and wanting to all be animals. And yeah. So anyways, we're just gonna get into this and see what this weird Therian world is all about. Alrighty, my people, I just want to interject that I do have a Patreon, and I do want to point out that if you want to support the channel, there is exclusive content on there, and I upload once a week. So yeah, if you want to check it out and support the channel, cool. If not, then let's get on with the video. So this is actually kind of an interesting perspective. A lot of this content is going to be a compilation of Therians going out in public. It's a public compilation of Therians going out. And this is interesting because Therians do identify as the animal, or they want to identify as the animal. And again, this is some kind of youth thing, I guess, where these people just identify as animals. It's like an identity thing, a slight identity crisis in my opinion, because we aren't animals, we're humans. I get the idea here because it's oh, well, I'm uncomfortable in public identifying as myself and I identify as a demon animal or something like that, but it is a little bit weird. No shade, this person's not being mean or anything or offending people or whatever. They're just going out dressed in their identifiable gear, I guess. And this is something that, in my opinion, kids do. When I was a little kid, I would get dressed up, pretend to be an animal, like a dog or a bird or whatever. It's just you're messing around, you're playing pretend. But I think these people actually do treat it like an identity, which I find fascinating because I've never actually dealt with that before. This is where I think it starts getting weirder and weirder, people dressing as animals and running like animals. This is another thing, is on a lot of these TikToks, it's people just running around and pretending to be the animal that they're dressed as. And I put pretend kind of lightly because I think they actually do believe that they have some sort of, spiritual energy of these animals or something. This is an identification. And at the end of the day, if this is not any bit sexual, and you're just pretending to be a dog or something, it's probably one of the least harmful things you can do. But I feel this kind of does mix into that furry scene very easily, and there are a lot of weird sorts in that scene, so I would be kind of weirded out by this, I'm not gonna lie. The other thing that's weird is you can see them recording this, you can see people looking at them. I feel if I saw somebody doing this in public and recording it, I would think that they were doing it for a video or something, which they obviously are, but I think it's a skit or something. I wouldn't think that these people actually identify as these animals unless I knew about what Therians are. So yeah, it's just a bunch of people jumping around and pretending to be animals. I'm not gonna lie, man, if I saw somebody walking around doing this and they're like a teenager, I just think they're having some sort of identity crisis. I'm not trying to be a jerk, you know, I get this is like an identification thing here, but this is just, in my opinion, like a little bit different from like going out in public with like something for pride on you, because they also had that. I feel like that's a little less weird these days than walking around with a tail or something like that. In high school, I did see people walking around with like cat ears and tails and things like that just for fun, or maybe because they were Therians and I didn't know it. But, I don't know. It's weird, in my opinion, going out in public and trying to be yourself and all that. Like, I don't really know if that is a very important thing to do. I guess if you're trying to make this your identity, maybe it'll, like, bother you if you don't do that. But, I don't know. I guess it's not good to be a closeted Therian. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but again, like, if I saw somebody walking around on all fours, I would be a little weirded out. It does look, though, like they're at some sort of convention where everybody's dressed up, and at that point, it's like, I don't know, it's like cosplay. But then people actually believe in this, and they're identifying as it, and it's not just a persona or like a character you're playing as, you actually believe that you're an animal or something like that. Reminder that it is okay to be yourself and dress how you want to. Remember to never let someone else's opinion affect you. Like, this is the other thing, I have to agree with this. Like, on the basis of my principles, I have to agree. You should never care what somebody thinks of you when you dress up in public or something like that. You can do whatever you want. And this is probably one of the least harmful things I've seen on the internet in a while, is like teens running around dressed as animals and just jumping. Like, that's literally what half of these compilations are. So yeah, when I see this, I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't care if people judge you for the way that you look. You should dress however you want to dress. Identify however you want, be who you want to be, and just don't care what people say to you. I just think the theme of it is probably what is so mind-boggling to me, or odd, because I've not actually seen this very consistently other than online. So I find it personally a little bit odd, but it's probably, again, one of the least harmful trends that I've seen, so I don't know if I should be discouraging this or not. I guess if you're just pretending to be an animal, it's one thing. The only thing I get worried about is, like, you know, this is something I didn't like about the furry scene that I was seeing. It's like, yeah, if you want to pretend to be, like, a fursona or something, or pretend to be, like, a magical dragon or a dog or something, and that's your identity online and whatever, it's like one thing. But then in that scene, they had a lot of weird, like, sexual shit going on. The furry scene had some scant groups of individuals who were, like, trying to bang animals and, you know, do creepy stuff like that. And if that doesn't involve this, like if this is its own kind of thing and it's just you pretending to be an animal and you're not trying to actually do anything to other animals, I feel like it's pretty passable. It's just like teenagers pretending to be things like animals. I'm not gonna lie, seeing somebody slow motion jump while dressed as an animal is probably one of the most comical things I've seen, but I'm actually just so confused watching this kind of content. I don't even know how I can break this down. It's just people pretending to be animals, right? Am I missing some sort of important point with this, or is it just people pretending to be animals or believing that they're animals and then jumping around? Because that's probably, again, like one of the most neutral things I've heard in a while. And I'm sorry I'm repeating myself, but when I see people doing crazy things online, or, you know, saying crazy stuff, this is more of that, like, chill vibe territory where it's pretty neutral. Like, it doesn't actually affect anybody. I almost shifted during this. I feel really animal-like. So do they actually think that they shift into the animal? Like, they become the animal? Is this where this starts going and getting weird? Do they actually think that they're the animals and that they, like, swap between animal and human personas? And that's why they run on all fours? If this is the territory we're getting into, then I can see where an issue might lie in having an identity crisis. I use void, spirits, bug self pronouns. Man, this is such a confusing scene. So it's like pronouns too. They've got pronouns and everything. Well, you know what? If everybody else can identify with whatever pronouns they want, I guess you can be a void, spirit, bug self. That's interesting. You know, this is a very specific scene. I was in high school with people like this. I feel like a lot of these people might be just doing this for attention. I could be wrong. Like, maybe it is just your identification and you want to identify as whatever you want, but I feel like these people, they're so young Like, you obviously don't know what you want in this age, and maybe it's like an identity crisis thing, or you're finding yourself, or you just want some attention, or you want to feel cool. I think a lot of people do this because they want to feel cool. But that's my opinion. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. What do you think about Therians? Do you think it's a harmless thing? Do you think it's just like an identity thing? Or is it you spiritually actually feel like you're an animal and this is your being, and you're just trying to embody the being that you are? Or what? Like, what do you guys think about this? Would you say it's a harmless thing? Would you say it's actually bothersome in some capacity? Because I don't really care that much if it's like somebody just dressing up like a dog or something and pretending to be a dog. The only thing that ever makes me uncomfortable is if we get into the weird, creepy, furry territory of this, or the weird, creepy territory of this where people are trying to perform, like, bestiality or something. But so far, I haven't really seen that, so I'm like, is this just, like, people pretending to be animals or thinking they're animals? And if so, is it harmful? It's probably the equivalence of, like, using pronouns or something, or whatever. Like, it's just your own, like, identification or something. I don't know. I find it a little bit odd, though. I'm not gonna lie. I'm trying to be nice, but I do find it odd. But yeah, that's my opinion. So tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And what do you think about Therians? And yeah, that's it. So hope y'all enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time, my people. It has been lovely. Slater.